All right, so it looks like we are live, which is great. I'm really excited to have you guys here with me on this Friday afternoon. I hope that it is warmer and less snowy where you are than where I am in New York, which is totally snowy and it's never going to stop being snowy. I just want to, before we begin, make sure that everybody is aware of the Q&A module. So if you are not aware of it, please click. There should be a little thing that's on the screen that's like, I always forget where it is. I think it's probably right here. And if you click into that, you will actually go into a Q&A module. So, and I'm going to be asking you over the course of this webinar to answer questions and share your thoughts and ideas. Okay, hold on one second. I'm seeing that the Q&A module is disabled. How do I make sure that that is not the case? All right, we're going to figure this out. But in the meantime, you can actually make comments in the Facebook comments that are below this video. So why don't we start with that? Okay, so today's webinar is about how to get a dream job in tech when you are new to coding. And if we have not had the pleasure of being introduced before, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Adda, and I am the founder and CEO of Skillcrush. And what we are is a community for digital skills training and education. So that means that we offer a variety of classes. We also do these things that we call blueprints, which I will be talking more about during this webinar, which are basically, learning programs. It's a 12-week training program where you will learn all the skills that you need in order to make a massive career change in your life. So yes. So Leslie, I'm hearing from Leslie here that she is going to take a look and see what is happening with our Q&A module and figure out why it doesn't seem to be working. But if not, we will be monitoring the Facebook comments, so just make your comments there, and I will be taking and fielding lots of questions. So, okay, so the whole point of this webinar today is that we are going to be talking about you. And specifically, I want to talk to you about what your dream job looks like in your head when you think about it and fantasize about it, as we all do. And more importantly, what your dream working situation is. So, what I'm talking about there is like, do you want to have more flexibility, or do you like working in a fast-paced corporate environment? Like, these are all questions that are really important for you to answer, because the truth of the matter is that we all spend the majority of, I think there's all those things about how like you should pay a lot for your mattress because you spend a third of your life sleeping, but the truth of the matter is you also spend a third of your life, if not more, working. And it's really important that in addition to, having a job and making sure that job pays you money that you can live off of and not have to worry about bills and take care of your family, it's also really important that you enjoy your job, you enjoy what you're doing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And more specifically, what we're going to be talking about is how you can take advantage of the very, very, very many opportunities that are currently available in the tech industry or in a variety of industries, but for people who have technical skills, and really use that to build a career that you love. So, I'm going to be talking today about all the opportunities that are out there. I'm going to be sharing some things that I have learned in the last 7 years that I've been working in the digital space. And I'm also going to be talking to you and sharing some stories about students that we've had, and talking about how, different students of ours have created different arrangements for them that are all specific to their situation and really work for them. And I want to talk specifically about this, I really want to focus our attention on making things work for you. So the first thing I want to do is let me just say one last thing, which is that by the end of this call, where you will have a better understanding of exactly what technical skills you should learn in order to make a big change in your life and career. And I'm also going to share with you how our Skillcrush blueprints can help you get there, and more importantly, get there faster. So what I'm hoping for you is that, we want to make a big, important change in your life, or if you want to do that, we want to help you do that. And there's no reason to hem and haw about this. Let's kick it into gear and make it happen. And what we see with our students is that 12 weeks is an awesome and sort of perfect amount of time. It's not too little time. It's not too much time. And you can make some really, really substantive changes in your life in that time frame. So, all right. So like I said, Please comment on Facebook in Facebook comments below. I'm going to be monitoring them, and hopefully we will get the Q&A module up and running. But if not, just go ahead and use the Facebook comments function instead. All right, so let me see really quickly, 1 second, if I can pull up the Facebook comments. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so now let's talk about your dream job. So tell me, what is your dream job? For some of us, you know, we have a really clear idea of what our dream job is. For others, it's not so clear, but you maybe have some ideas about things that you don't like about your current job situation. So the question I have for you is, you know, are you excited about the idea? For example, would you want to work at a big tech company? Would you want to work for yourself? Do you want to work from home? Like, what is it that comes to mind when you start to think about a dream situation for yourself? So one of the best things about being a developer that I have learned is that you become a really, really good problem solver. And that's because that's really the nature of the kind of work that you have to do. Is you have to take a big problem and then you have to break it down into smaller problems that are more manageable, and then you have to think about what skills you have at your disposal, and then figure out how to solve that problem. So the reason why I want to share that with you is because what starts to happen when you get sort of inculcated into this developer mindset is that you start to address all issues in your life this way. And it's really, really amazing. And so you start to think about how any problem that you have in your life, you can start to think about, okay, well, like, let me break that problem down and think about it. And what's really important for you is to know that that is exactly a process that you can use for engineering your dream job or your dream career or your dream working arrangement. So the first thing that we need to figure out is, what is it that you want? What is most important to you? You know, is making a lot of money important to you? Like, is one of your goals to make 6 figures, and ideally you want to make it next year or this year? Do you want more flexibility? So, you know, for a lot of people, it's really hard to have to be in an office every single day. So I can say, like, I had this experience. This was a really big challenge for me. So for me, you know, I wanted to make money. I wanted to make a good living and not have to worry about money. But, you know, maximizing my earning potential wasn't necessarily my number one goal. My number one goal was just to it was to have more control over my life. So I remember I was working at one point at MTV, and there was literally 2 months where what I would do every single day is I would pick up my phone and I would call my manager and I would say, is there anything for me to do today? And he would say, nope, nothing to do. And then I would put down the phone, and then I would literally have 7 hours and 45 minutes to just sit there and see if anything happened. And it was horrible. I absolutely hated it. And it was such a waste of my time. It was such a waste that I had to go into work. It was just so silly and ridiculous. And it was totally wrong for me. So, you know, maybe you feel that way, maybe you don't feel that way. Really important to know. Another question is, you know, do you want to work in an organization you really love? So, you know, sometimes it's about the work environment, and sometimes it's about the type of work that that organization is doing. So that could be, there could be like a cause that you are really, really committed to. Maybe you want to work for an organization that works on that cause. Or maybe there's a company that you really love, like maybe you really love Uber, or, you know, Pinterest, like maybe you just love Pinterest and have a million Pinterest boards. Or you know, you really like Etsy, for example. So that could be another big determining factor. Like, do you have a company that you really like to work for? So I want you to tell me in the comments right now, you know, talk about what is most important to you. What does your dream career look like? Is it about flexibility? Is it about being able to work from around the world? Is it about working in a company you really love? Is it about having a 401k and insurance? Is it about, you know, making $150,000 because that will allow you to, you know, buy a house and a Lamborghini and, you know, whatever else it is that you want? I mean, that's totally awesome. So I'm going to take a look and see what you all are saying. Okay, so this is awesome. Um, So we've got Kim here, and she is saying that she would love to work at a big tech company. And she's saying, I want to interact with new people who keep me challenged and inspired. Working from home is super flexible, but it's taught me that I need social aspects to help to keep me fueled in my work. So Kim, totally understand that. That is absolutely a challenge that I struggle with sometimes as a business owner who runs a remote company. It's amazing, and I can work with people from all over the world. But sometimes, yeah, absolutely, especially during the winter, like, you have to get out and meet people. And you're absolutely right that working on a big team can be an amazing way to accelerate your growth really, really quickly. So I think that is awesome for you. So Erica says, I would like to work. And as part of my dream job, I would really like the flexibility. I want to teach, write, and translate. And I'd also like to code some cool creative stuff. I learned some HTML and Ruby, and this week I wanted to start getting acquainted with Ruby on Rails. Those are all awesome skills to learn, Erica. So yeah, I mean, I think what is really cool about being a developer is that it's really possible to build a freelance career that allows you an enormous amount of flexibility without having to sacrifice a salary. Like, you can really make a very good living. Of course, like, it's different and it doesn't come with the same stability that having a full-time job is, but in exchange for that stability, you get a lot of flexibility and a lot of opportunity. So Rebecca here is saying that her dream job would be remote but stable that allows me to work in a team. So she says, I love the camaraderie that comes from working with teams and challenge and rewards that come from a technical career. However, I want to be able to stay in my small town in Wyoming. So, and have the lifestyle that's available here. And I just want to say this is, I think what's cool about what Rebecca's expressing is that she is talking about having something where she, can have a little bit of the best of both worlds, right? So she would like a job where she can work remote, but work on a team and have stability. So, and what's really cool about the internet and working on the internet is that you don't have to show up in person. Obviously, it's also great to be able to work in person with people, but it's not necessary. And, we have team members who work from all over the world, and that is absolutely an opportunity that is possible in tech. And then we have Mitzi here who says, dream career would allow me to be creative, whether that means artistically or as a problem solver with really smart people I can learn from. Yeah, so it's so funny because I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and this is actually what I want to get into next, is people, I think, have a lot of misconceptions about what it means to work in tech. And I think I think one of the misconceptions is that people think it's not creative. But I would argue personally, and it sounds like, Mitzi, you probably agree with me, that there is an enormous amount of creativity that has to go into problem solving. So I think you are on the right path. All right, so one of the things that or the thing that I really want all of you to take away from this is that every single one of these dream scenarios that you've described is absolutely possible. I have, obviously not everything that we've ever wanted is possible, but I think you guys are all talking about situations that are completely reasonable. I think it makes a lot of sense that you'd want those things. And I really am seeing that more and more, these ideas are really taking hold. And you've got a lot of companies that are hiring remote workers. You've got a lot of people who are making great livings as freelance designers and developers. And then at the same time, you have enormous tech companies that are just growing and growing and growing and just have an endless need for tech talent. And that is just in technology. We haven't even started to talk about, how technology is impacting other industries. And there's so much opportunity in those spaces because the people who traditionally, graduate with computer science degrees and are those kind of more traditional, by the book technologists tend to overlook the opportunities in those spaces. So if you are somebody who has experience like working in an industry that's not that technological, you actually have such a big advantage, because what you can do once you have more tech skills is you can start to take and draw on all the knowledge that you have from your past career and think about creatively problem solving with technology in your industry, which really, really puts you on the cutting edge. So I think that one of the things I want to address in this webinar, though, is that I think it's really important that we talk about what it means to be a technology worker, what it takes to be a technology worker, and sort of dispel some of the myths around it, because I think there's a lot of mythology that goes into technology. So the thing is that, as you know, and you know this because you probably are sitting at a computer and you probably have your iPhone right next to you, and a TV that is connected to the internet, and maybe you have internet on in your car. And my friend posted on Facebook the other day that she's in Brazil, and she was able to use her phone in Brazil to transfer money between her bank accounts, and then was able to call via Skype. And she was just like, this is crazy. It's unbelievable how connected the world is now, thanks to technology. So, but the problem, or the challenge that we're all facing, is that this technology revolution is happening really, really fast, but it's still very, very new. And what that means is that for a lot of us, especially those of us who are in their late 20s, early or into your 30s and 40s, we didn't really grow up with this stuff. So maybe we had a computer and did some dial-up or whatever when we were in junior high and high school and college and stuff like that. But for a lot of us, it's still pretty new, and we're basically having to learn all the technology as little kids are learning it. And that can be, it's an unknown, and it's a little bit scary, and we don't have anyone who's older to guide us in this process. If anything, we're taking advice from younger people. Having to look at them for cues, which is it's a little bit disorienting. So I think that this has created this feeling amongst a lot of people that technology is a little bit scary, a little bit mysterious, a little bit intimidating. And I think that this is further exacerbated by the fact that when it comes to actual coding, you actually can't see the code, right? You can't I don't know, if I wanted to learn how to use a car, I could pop open the hood and I could start pulling parts out, and it wouldn't be a very good idea, but I could do it. But you don't have that opportunity with code, right? I can't be tell me, show me how Chrome works. Where do you look for that? What does it even mean? I don't even understand the question. So I would love to hear from you guys. Do you feel intimidated by coding? Do you know what that means? Do you ever have any reservations about whether or not you can do it? Oh God, I'm over 40. Is it possible for me to learn something? How do I possibly catch up with this craziness that is happening all around me that is totally new and different and unlike anything I've ever seen? So do any of you guys feel that way? I would love to hear. I'm going to take a look at your comments. Yeah, so for example, Tanya is asking this question, which I think is a question that is top of mind for so many people, which is, is it really possible to work in technology, work as a coder or developer, if you don't have a computer science and engineering degree? What do you do? I'm 35. I can't go back to school for another bachelor's degree. I don't have the money or the time or any of those things, but I do really want to work in this industry, and I want to do it right, and I want to have skills that are really, really, impressive. What am I to do? So, and then Deirdre says, I have the same question. I took a web development boot camp, and I've been applying for jobs, and I'm getting feedback that I don't have enough experience, it looks like. And that they are looking for people with more experience. So what do you do to land the first job after learning to code? Absolutely. So these are really, really great questions. And this is actually a good time for me to talk a little bit about some students of ours and what they have done to overcome this. And, the truth of the matter is that breaking into a new industry is hard. There's no question of that, right? So there's a couple different paths, and I would say the most popular path that I've seen our students take is that they start by doing freelance work. And basically what happens is that when you start learning a new skill, the first thing that you do is learn it, right? And you sort of you get your sort of mind around the whole thing, and you understand what's going on. And then really what you have to do is practice. And you have to practice a lot. And Deirdre, this is what people are talking about when they say, we want 1 to 3 years of actual development experience. And the truth of the matter is that if you have, what they really want you to do is to have worked through a couple of different projects. And the reason for that is because there is a somewhat limited, there is an unlimited set of challenges that you encounter in the technology space, but there are probably I would say 80 to 90% of the problems you can encounter if you work on let's say 5 projects or something like that, right? So it's cross browser issues, data security issues, there's just a couple of things that tend to come up over and over again, and your learning curve, it will just be zoom on the first 5 projects, and then it'll start to sort of plateau. And so what employers are looking for is they need you to sort of have overcome that learning curve before they hire you. And I actually realize now that I'm totally skipping Tanya's question, which is whether people will hire people without computer science degrees. And Tanya, the unequivocal answer is absolutely they will. And first of all, there's a lot of data to back this up. Of all of the sort of engineering fields, computer engineering and computer science is the one that has the highest percentage of people without degrees in that, working in the field. More importantly, there is a projected shortfall of, basically there are expected to be somewhere between 1 and 1.5 million new jobs added in the technology industry over the next 10 years. And those jobs are relatively hardcore development jobs. So it's a pretty strict definition of what it means to be working in the technology industry, which I just say to say that I don't think 1.5 million actually encapsulates all of the jobs that will become available. And in that same time frame, it's projected that they will graduate, I think it's somewhere, I would have to look at the numbers, but it's somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 computer science students based on current enrollment numbers and growth of enrollment. And basically that's a shortfall of almost 1 million, or somewhere maybe it's over 1 million. So that means that there will be 1.5 million jobs. And if those employers were only to hire people with computer science degrees, only a couple 100,000 potential applicants, new applicants to fill those roles. So the bottom line is that employers are going to have to look outside of that purview. So I will say that what I see in the industry right now in terms of hiring is that employers, the more you get into really, really heavy technology industry jobs, so we're talking the Googles of the world. If you look at financial tech, they tend to be a little bit more intense about those kinds of requirements. So if you wanted a job at JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs or one of those big banks, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive about degrees. But if you're talking about consumer facing technology companies, if you're talking about, media businesses, especially retailers, smaller businesses, stuff like that, absolutely. Those companies do not tend to require a computer science degree. But to get back to Deirdre's question about how do you get that first job, so it's really just about getting yourself experience, and you really want to cast a wide net in terms of what types of experiences you seek out. So that means that you should look for freelance projects. You should contribute to open source projects. Basically what you want to do is you want to go into an employer and you want to be able to really talk through how you have taken your skills and applied them in the workforce and what you have learned from that experience. And I think that although if you wanted to do those things, you do volunteer projects or open source projects, you could definitely get the experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay with you. But if you want to get paid for that work, that is absolutely possible. And I know that because I have a lot of students who are doing that exactly right now. The other way that we've seen students get full-time work is there's 2 sort of avenues that we've seen work really well for students. One is that they have gone to work sort of outside of the tech industry. So they're in technical positions, but at nonprofits or media companies, like I mentioned, or small businesses. And those can be opportunities where the people might be more open to a beginner. But what's really cool about jobs in those places is usually that you get a lot of freedom and a lot of opportunity to really set the direction of what's going on and learn a lot. And that can be an amazing first step. And exactly that, year of experience that you're talking about these other technology employers are looking for, that can really sort of be an awesome, sort of stepping stone. I'm trying to say, like a jump off spot. I don't know. The other thing that I think is a great thing for you to explore is agencies. So we're talking about design agencies, development agencies, advertising agencies, those kinds of places, the places that have just a lot of different types of work that comes through. They tend to be more open to hiring more junior people and training them. And we've had a number of students get jobs at companies like that. And I think that's a really, really good avenue to look into. So let me see if there's any more questions. Erica says here that she finds technology a little bit intimidating, and it feels hard to learn enough to really break into the industry. But one of the things that she's realized is that her degree in language and her interest in language will really help her learn faster, and that is absolutely true. Actually, if you do our Ruby on Rails blueprint, we do have this really, really fun app where it's a whole anagram app, and it does all this interesting stuff with algorithms and language and words and stuff like that. So this is very cool. So let's see what else. So Renee has a really, really good question, which is, I feel intimidated about coding, especially with the younger generation starting in high school or middle school. How do we know the skills we learn now won't become obsolete in a few years as well? So this is such a good question, because I think it's such a common concern. And I want to let you in on a little secret, which is basically, I can guarantee that the skills that you're going to learn are going to be obsolete in a couple of years. But that said, the irony of that is that is actually a huge opportunity for you. It feels very terrible, and that is oh my gosh, why even bother starting? But it actually represents massive opportunity. And what I mean by that is, the trick with technology and working in the tech industry is that things are always changing and you're always learning. And that means that the most important skill for you to develop is actually learning how to learn, not learning something specific. But it also means that you have this unique opportunity where every couple of years, things really shift, and that it opens a door. And it means that you can really learn what's cutting edge today, and that will make you very, very attractive to employers, because they're going to want to start using that technology, and it's going to be really hard to hire people with those skills because there's not a lot of them running around. Therefore, if you've really developed that skill, then all of a sudden you become very attractive. So that's something for you to think about, is that both learning to accept that technology is always changing, you're always going to have to keep learning, but also recognizing that the fact that it's always changing is actually a huge opportunity for somebody who's trying to break into it. Okay, so Rose says, when something I write works, it feels great. Then I remember how much I don't know, and it can be overwhelming. But I know I just started a couple of months ago, and of course I can just I can't just intuitively know how to make it work. And yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. And, it's funny, I, in general, I've had a ton of experience at this point developing apps and stuff like that. And recently I was learning some new technology myself, and, sort of hit a roadblock. And it was so funny because it was my rational mind knew that I was going to be able to get over this and work through it, and it wasn't going to be a problem. But I had such a strong sort of emotional reaction. It was all the words in my head were saying the right thing, but the feeling I was having was utter panic. And it was really funny for me. And it was, and I think that it's this biological lizard brain reaction to something new, and it's really hard. And I think the best thing that we can do is just talk openly about it, and let that you're not unique in feeling that way. We all encounter situations where we come across something and get momentarily freaked out, and it's just important to remember that it's not reality. It's just a feeling, and it'll go away and we'll overcome it. And look, like, this is why you have to build a support network around yourself. It's really, really important that you do that. All right, so I wanted to share with you a couple of simple tips that I love to share with my students, which I think that you can really, I hope, like, I really do believe that so much of, building a career that you love, about doing something new and challenging for yourself, is about sort of learning, how to go through that process. Because the truth of the matter is that, like, it's a never-ending situation. We're always going to be, like, at least if you're going to be continuing to kind of push yourself and, like, reach for new goals and make more money and do more exciting work and, like, really put yourself out there, like, you're going to be in a never-ending process of, sort of learning something, getting good at it, and then pushing yourself into the next step of, of discomfort. And I think it's really important to just start to sort of learn the process of how that goes, and to learn some skills in terms of how to cope with those situations and continue to move forward. So tip number one is that you're going to have to start before you're ready. And that's just reality, right? This is like one of those, like, crazy catch-22 situations where if you don't start, you'll never be ready. And it's like starting comes before being ready, but we always want to be ready before we start, but that's never going to work, right? So really simple, really hard to do, right? Much easier to say than it is to do. But I think about this a lot, like, like, one of the funny things, right, is that if I have, let's just use a blog post as an example. Like, I want to write a blog post on a topic. It is so much easier for me if somebody else writes the blog post for me first, and then all I have to do is edit it. And then all this, like, great stuff will come out, and I'll be like, oh, no, you said it all wrong. Like, I'm going to change it all. And I think the reason for that is because they have gotten over the hurdle of inertia to get started for me at that point. And that just, like, that's a hard hurdle, and, like, you just have to do it. And I think sometimes, a big thing we have to keep saying to ourselves is, it's not going to be perfect. It's not even going to be good when I start, but the only way to get it from good to great is to have it be good first, or terrible first, and then move it to good, and then move it to great. And, we're just going to have to start. So that leads into my second tip, which is that it's really important to iterate. And this is something that, like, you can't help but get sort of beaten into you when you work in the technology industry. Like, you just have to iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate. And, like, for any of you who have been following Skillcrush for a long time, you will know that we have iterated our platform and our classes and our marketing and our blogs and, I mean, everything a million times. And, like, it's part of the fun. So, if you stay still, you die. So keep on moving. Number three is that you have to learn to love the pain. And what I mean by that is that the more and more you can learn to, like, appreciate this process of, like, starting before you're ready and iterating, the better the like, happier you will be in the process, the better your results will be, and the more likely you will be to reach your goals. Because the truth of the matter is that the only way to get to your goals is to follow a proven, path to the goal. And, like, there's no specific, like, we can't tell you, like, do this and then do this and then do this exactly. Like, nobody's path is exactly the same, but the process by which they get to and, like, build their path is the same. And that process involves starting before you're ready, iterating, and keeping with it. Tip number 4 is don't be shy about asking for help. So the thing you have to remember is that the people who help you, they learn a lot in the process of helping you. So you're actually doing them a service by asking for their help. So, and we see this over and over and over again with our students, where the students who do the best are the ones who ask for the most help, bar none. And they ask for help all the time. They do it without shame. And they get so much out of it because they get so much personal attention from our instructors. They interact with their fellow classmates the most. And they get to, and then inevitably they end up helping people who, after they've overcome a hurdle, they help other people who are in the process of working on that issue. And it's just a beautiful system that keeps giving. And I think this is especially important, like, if you're thinking about enrolling in the Skillcrush Career Blueprints or another online program, or, anything like that, I really want to encourage you to ask for help as you need it and really get the most out of your program. Because I think if you're going to make that type of investment, you should take full advantage of the services that are offered. So tip number 5, this also segues into tip number 5, which is that you always want to surround yourselves with people who are smarter than you. And I know that for some of us who maybe live in, more rural or suburban areas, like it can feel hard. It's like, well, there's nobody in my area who codes. Like we have an amazing teammate who's in Waco, Texas. And she was like, how do I find coders in Waco? And believe it or not, she did find coders in Waco. But more importantly, the thing that's really amazing about the internet is that the people that you surround yourself don't have to be local, and you can actually, be a part of an online community like Skillcrush, and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you that way. And then sort of 5, I guess, my tip 5A is that you also have to listen to the advice that people give you. So it is really important to surround yourself with smart people, and then you just listen to them because they know what they're talking about. All right. So I want to take a short breather, and I'm just going to look at the comments and see if there's anything else about those topics, about what I've talked about so far. Okay, cool. All right, great. So I see some other questions here that I definitely want to address. Okay, so what I'm going to shift to now is I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Skillcrush Career Blueprints. So if you have enjoyed this webinar, and I hope that you have, and you would like to get more of this kind of advice, guidance, and support in your digital learning journey, then I would like to invite you to join us with Skillcrush Blueprints, because this is exactly the kind of stuff we do during the blueprints. So the way the blueprints work is that you buy a blueprint. The program is 12 weeks long. The way it consists of either 3 or 4 classes, depending on which one you sign up for. And basically, we walk you through a very structured, easy to follow program where we will teach you all the skills that you need in order to start a new career in the tech field. So if you're a total beginner, what you want to do is look into our web design or web developer blueprints, because they are there are no prerequisites for those, so you don't have to know anything going in. If you are more interested in sort of exploring a flexible freelance career, I would encourage you to look into our web design blueprint. I think that if you do the web design blueprint and then the WordPress blueprint, those are sort of the perfect 1-2 punch for building a really successful freelancing career. If you are more interested in a more sort of traditional tech job, whether or not you want to work remotely, remotely or in person, but if you're more interested in sort of, working full time, working at a more traditional tech company, working on a team, then I would encourage you to look into the web developer blueprint, and then you could consider following that up with a Ruby on Rails developer blueprint. Those will both prepare you really, really well for getting into a more traditional technology position. And the way it works is that you sign up for a blueprint, and what we will do is give you access to our amazing learning platform. And what the learning platform does is it sort of it has a ton of resources for you in terms of there's day-by-day lessons and lots of code challenges. Like our focus at Skillcrush is really on practical skills. So our goal is very much to teach you skills, but also to really, really push you to practice those skills and start to really build real projects that you will be able to use to then get work. We, in every single one of our blueprints, you will design and build your own website. Depending on the blueprint that you choose, you may build a WordPress blog. You may build a fancy Ruby on Rails app. The complexity varies by blueprint. Every week we host office hours that are like this, except for instead of just me talking at you the whole time, we do video office hours. There will be, 5 to 10 students at a time, and you can get super focused, individualized attention. We'll talk about, whatever coding challenge you're stuck on, if you're stuck on something, or if you just have a question about how to do something better. And most importantly, we love to talk about, what are your career ambitions? How can we help you get there? How is what you're doing in class going to be applicable to working for a client or a job? Those are exactly the kind of questions that we love to talk to our students about. yeah, the office hours are like the funnest part for me personally. And then we also host a really amazing community on Mighty Bell, where students can go all day or night and chat and ask questions and get help with their code and all that fun stuff. So, and in general, I would just say that the purpose of our blueprints is really to help you, our student, to have a positive economic impact on your life, or a positive, career impact. So maybe for you, money isn't the primary concern, but it's about figuring out sort of a greater quality of life, greater flexibility. And we do that by giving you digital skills that you need in order to take advantage of the many, many opportunities that exist in technology. So I would love to answer your questions. So about our blueprint. So I'm looking right now. So Chris, I want to see if it's Chris Vandermeer. Is that right? So he's asking how our Ruby on Rails blueprints compares to Michael Hartle's Rails tutorial. So if those of you who are not familiar, there's a very famous Rails, it's called railstutorial.org, that you can take a look at, that steps you through how to build a Rails app. And it's written by a developer named Michael Hartle. And it's pretty famous. So Chris, this is a great question. So fundamentally, the thing that you have to remember with our blueprints is that unlike an online tutorial where you just kind of go step by step, our blueprints are interactive, meaning that we provide you with step-by-step guidance, but we also provide you with a lot of instructor and community support. So that means that, you've got someone who you can show your code to. You've got a community of other students to work with. We'll give you a lot of career advice, that kind of stuff. So I would say just like fundamentally, I just want to shift your perspective a little bit about, we aren't a sort of do it your own pace or not. It's not that you can't do it at your own pace. You can certainly do it at your own pace, but we're not like a self-serve model where, the tutorials are just there and you can just go do them. We're really about having you do them in the context of a community of people that includes instructors to help you. The other big thing about our Ruby on Rails blueprint versus Michael Hartle's, there's a couple of huge things, right? One is that we spend 4 weeks just on Ruby. So the Rails tutorial doesn't really, it talks a little bit about Ruby, but it doesn't sort of go as in depth. And that's because we really believe that in order to be a successful Rails developer, you have to first be a successful Ruby developer. The second thing is that we also teach you Sinatra and Active Record. And at the end of the day, just the biggest thing is that it's just a lot less, Michael Hartle's Rails tutorial, it's very good and comprehensive, but the amount of material that we can go through, the amount of projects we can work on, the amount of different types of stuff that we can think about in 12 weeks is just obviously a lot greater. So we also get into a lot of stuff about computational thinking, algorithm design, sort of more heady, but really fun, practical topics like that. So Catherine asks, are the blueprints self-paced? So this is a really interesting and good question. So we definitely work with students who need, who would like a different type of schedule for the blueprints, but the blueprints are actually on a set 12-week schedule. And the reason why we do that is because we find that it's a really good pace that works for the majority of students. If those don't, if the schedule that we have doesn't work for you, we're happy to work with you to figure out a schedule that does work. But in terms of taking advantage of the office hours and a lot of the community activity, we recommend that our students do, keep up with the classes. Okay, so Donna has a question, which is, I'm new and I have no coding experience, and I would like to become a developer. I get so much information about different programs daily. So far, I like this program. Okay, so she's looking to work full time. Okay, well, Donna, then first of all, we love people with no coding experience. We will, make sure that you get lots of coding experience, and won't be able to say that anymore, but you're absolutely welcome. And we've had lots of students. In fact, I would say the vast majority of our students have no coding experience when they come to us. If you want to become a developer full-time, then I would encourage you to sign up for our web developer blueprint, and we will walk you through how to break into the industry. So I think that that would be a perfect fit for you. Okay, so Blake has a question, which is, how familiar does one need to already be with HTML and CSS before jumping into the WordPress blueprint? So the rule of thumb that we use is that you should be able to code up a simple website on your own. So that means like using HTML and CSS. So I would want you to be able to build a website from scratch as opposed to just being able to edit HTML and CSS. And if you have further questions about this, we actually have a test that we use. And if you email us at hello@skillcrush.com, we would be happy to send that to you so that you can take a look and see if it's a level of HTML and CSS that you feel comfortable with. I will say that you get a lot of practice with HTML and CSS in the WordPress blueprint, so I wouldn't overthink it. But I would caution you that if your only experience with HTML and CSS is to edit it, that it's probably not going to be the best fit for you. Okay, so Laronda asks, are there any skills you would recommend to brush up on before taking a blueprint course? Are there requirements for the kind of computer you need to take a course? So in terms of skills that I would recommend brushing up on, I don't really think there are. I think that if you are relatively comfortable on your computer, then you're going to be fine. And like using a website and web browsers and stuff like that. A lot of the other stuff we will walk you through, so that should not be a problem. In terms of requirements for a computer, you're going to need a computer that you can run a server on. So actually, this isn't a requirement for the web design blueprint, but basically, I mean, really, like the only situations that we've run into that have been problems are if people expect to be able to do it on a tablet. You won't be able to do it like on your iPad or a Kindle tablet, and that's just because you can't run the kinds of software programs that you need to be able to run. And something like a Chromebook can work, but you have to be comfortable using Linux, so that can be a little more complicated. So, but if you have, you know, a Mac or a PC, you should be totally fine. So Stephanie says, can I email someone at Skillcrush to help me decide which blueprint would be best for me? Example, I already have some HTML and CSS training, so I'm trying to decide whether the design developer or WordPress blueprint is best for me. And she says, I'm not ready for Rails. And I'm going to say, how do you know you're not ready? Maybe you just need to start before you're ready. But no, I don't mean to pressure you in any capacity. I think it really depends on what your goals are. So if I mean, if you're feeling brave, then I would encourage you to dive into the WordPress blueprint. WordPress is a super, super marketable skill. It's really easy to start making money with it. If you are more interested on the design aspect of things, then you should definitely look at the design one. I guess, yeah. So why don't you send us an email and tell us a little bit more about what you're looking for? Like, do you want to work freelance? Do you want to work full-time? You know, when I say, what's your dream job, Stephanie? What comes to mind? Talk to us about that, and then we can help you figure out what's right for you. And absolutely email us at hello@skillcrush.com. Okay, so Catherine asks, how often do the Blueprint classes open up? Oh, and Leslie's asking me to also tell you guys that we are here all weekend to help you, and we'd love to answer questions about the Blueprints and are happy to help. Even if your question's not about Blueprints, we love to give out career advice. Just holler at us. Okay. Catherine asks, how often do the Blueprint classes open up? She's interested in signing up, but she doesn't think she can. So we enroll students. We start them every single month. So if you can't join us for March, then hopefully you can join us for April. So Laura asks, is there a good tech job search engine that you would recommend? So yes, Laura, there are a ton actually. It depends a little bit on what kind of job you're looking for. Like, are you interested in more in design, development, remote work, stuff like that? If you go to our website, we have a ton of articles on the blog about this topic. There is an awesome article that's like 25 places to find remote work. There's a bunch of jobs posting website, or there's a bunch of articles about different job opportunities that exist. Just to rattle off, like there's a great website called The Muse that you can go to. Authentic Jobs is a great one. If you're looking for freelance work, you can go to Flex Jobs. If you want remote work, there's like We Work Remote. There's, I mean, Indeed is amazing because it's just like so comprehensive. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And oh, and if you want remote work, also there's an awesome organization called Power to Fly. Yeah, we have endless resources. So take a look at our blog, see if you can't find it, what you're looking for there. If you can't, shoot us an email at hello@skillcrush.com, and we'll just overwhelm you with a list of places to look. Renee has a question: is it more difficult to get hired as a designer than as a programmer or developer? Yeah, I mean, no, I think that I think they're both hard and they're both easy. I think that so I guess I think that because of what we were talking about earlier with sort of the intimidation factor, it can be a little bit easier for some people to wrap their head around becoming a designer, because I think it's a little bit more of a known. But I think that you are in a great spot either way. Natalie asks, so is WordPress the best skill for remote work? So actually, Natalia. So actually, I wouldn't say WordPress is a good skill for remote work, but I actually wouldn't argue it as basically remote work as much as freelance work. And the distinction I just want to make there is that remote work can be freelance. So that can mean like I'm working on a project for a client and I work out of my house because that's where I like to work. But remote work can also be, I work full-time for a big tech company. I just do it from home, or I do it from a co-working space or something like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that WordPress is the most ideal for remote work per se, but WordPress is the best way to break into freelance development, bar none, because there are just so many different types of companies that need WordPress help. So like every small business, every nonprofit, every media company, every other freelancer. I mean, these people, like everybody needs a WordPress site. So the barrier to entry there is relatively low once you learn WordPress. So it can really provide you with an excellent way to start making money. And we've seen this just happen amazingly with our students. We had a student who, in her second month, got a job where she was charging $60 an hour for her work on a WordPress site. And then she was also doing this crazy deployment stuff because we taught her this really amazing, professional grade deployment process. And so she was charging $100 an hour for that work. And this is all work outside of her day job that she was able to do. So this is just like extra money in her pocket. We have other students who have started freelancing businesses with WordPress. I mean, it really just, there's a lot of opportunity out there for that. So Kate is asking, do you have any tips about how to score your first freelance client? Like, is there a portal I could sign up for, or are there better ways to start building up a client base? So Kate, this is a really good question. And yes, we actually have a very specific curriculum that we take our students through that is all about how to find a client, how to network for your clients, how to look for clients online, how to, market yourself. Like I said, like our goal with the blueprints is really to teach you guys the skills and then to very specifically walk you through the process of taking those skills and starting to use them to either make more money or to sort of shift your job in the ways that you want to shift it in terms of flexibility and freedom and all of that stuff. So absolutely, it's a really important part of our blueprints. Okay, so Rebecca asked the question, finishing up your design blueprint and deciding between WordPress and Rails blueprint in April. Regardless of which one I start, I would like to do the other one once it's done. Is there any particular reason to do one of those first? So Rebecca, no, not at all. They're not like, the skills you will learn in each one will be applicable to the other. It's not like learning Rails first is better and then learning WordPress, not at all. I would just say for you, I would think about, what is your goal? Like, are you looking to start making money right away? Are you looking, are you playing a long game? Are you doing a little bit of both? They both have their pluses and minuses. I'd be happy to talk to you more specifically about your situation by email if you want to shoot me an email at hello@skillcrush.com. But really, you can't go wrong. I think that if you're interested in starting to do more client work immediately, it might be a little bit easier to get going with WordPress than with Rails. But if you also just want to dive really deep into, into development and really get your tech on, then Rails is so fun. So Josh has a great question, which is that even with all the technical skills, will the blueprints help us stand out from all other potential applicants for jobs? So I think this is a really important question, and I think it speaks to the question that was earlier also about computer science degrees. And I think that the thing that you have to keep in mind with working in the tech industry is that you really have to start to think a little bit differently, because we've all been trained that it's all about the degree, and you want to have a fancy brand name degree and like look really good and have the right certifications or whatever. And that really isn't how the tech industry works. And we can talk about why that is. And it's a lot of different reasons, right? It's because the tech industry is really new. It's because it's sort of being made up as we go along. It's because it's changing all the time. But for you, what is going to make you stand out is the work that you can show that you have done and the quality of that work. And this is a really important aspect of it, your ability to talk intelligently and comprehensively about that work and what challenges you faced when you were working on that work and how you solved those problems. So the thing that an employer is looking for, and I know this because like we are interviewing candidates right now for developer positions, is you want to see that the person has done work. You want to see that there isn't like obvious problems with the work, or if there are obvious problems, then you want to see that the person has some knowledge of that and is aware that this was the best that they could do at that moment in time, but they have a sense for how things could be done better. And then you just really want to see that people are smart and think about things critically, because like I said, like tomorrow, like we could throw out our whole technology stack and like there could be some other hot new language and we could be like, we're going to use that language instead. And there's going to be no one for us to hire who knows that language because it's brand new. And like, what do? Well, you better believe that your technology team is going to be able to, learn fast enough and keep up with things. And that's really what employers are going to be looking for, much more than a specific piece of paper. And the thing though is that they're going to be impressed that you went and tried something totally different and, rocked it. That's going to be really impressive to them. And so that's really what I would think about is, don't think about it as like, I'm going to get the stamp of approval and that's going to be my ticket. But instead think about it as this is going to be the first very important step in a journey that I'm going to take to learn a lot and, do a lot of interesting creative work. And and it's going to be an ongoing process. And that process will start when you enroll in a blueprint and will continue as you, work for employers. So I'm getting the call to wrap things up. So I just want to encourage you all to email us if we didn't get to your question, because I know that there were more questions than we could answer. So please, email us at hello@skillcrush.com. I'll be online this weekend. My team will be online this weekend. We will get to your question as soon as we possibly can. Enrollment closes on Monday. I really want to encourage you guys to just dive in, make the leap. We're going to be here to catch you. We can't wait to see you in class. We can't wait to talk to you on office hours. We can't wait to help you figure out what your dream career is and how you're going to get there. And I would just like to I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend, and it's been such a pleasure. And I just look forward to seeing you in class. All right. And, just go get them. All right. Take care. Now I have to figure out how to turn off my, here we go.